We are closing in on the NFL playoffs, and who better to talk about that than the three-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. My name is Tom Vandervoort. You are watching Hot Reads, our weekly look at the NFL with Troy. And Troy, just wanted to talk to you just in general about the NFL playoffs. I know we talk a lot. We hear about how the game changes when you get to the playoffs, and I wonder if you could just be specific with us and say how exactly does the game change once you're in the NFL playoffs?
Well, in one word, it's urgency. And I think that as players and as coaches, you really do feel that. And, let's just go back to when this whole season began and you go into the preseason and everyone kind of understands, okay, preseason's great, but it's not counting against your record. And there's, really a informality of that when you go into those games and you're not real intense about it. Then you go into the regular season and you realize, wow, this is for real. And so there's some real urgency that then hits you in week one. And that then goes to another level when you get to the playoffs. And every team wants to make the playoffs, obviously, but once you do, the last thing you want to have happen is to not even win one playoff game. So there's a lot of pressure, on these teams that are playing, in the first round of the playoffs to win. Because if you don't accomplish that, then you spend the whole offseason talking about, you didn't even win a playoff game. So the pressure certainly gets mounted. I think that when you get onto the field, you realize that every play is really significant. The thing that I liked most about the playoffs is that there were no excuses. It wasn't, we were looking past this team because we had so-and-so coming up in 2 weeks, or, I didn't play as well as I could have, but I'll be fine down the road. And, that there's a finality to the whole thing if you don't play well. And that's what I appreciated about it, that you either did it or you didn't, and if you didn't, then you went home.
There you go. And did the guys handle that kind of pressure a little bit differently, or is it hard when you first encounter that and you end up getting used to it over the course of your career?
Well, I think that, each year it's kind of the same. What I found is that if you were able to win, whether you were a wild card team or if you were a team that was able to get a first round bye, that it didn't change as far as the real urgency you felt in that first playoff game that you played each season. And then once you won that game, I always felt that the following playoff game was a little bit easier. I just felt like a little bit of weight had been taken, off my shoulders, even though you obviously haven't gotten close to achieving what you ultimately want to. But players reacted that differently. They reacted that differently during the week. Players reacted that differently even in the locker room before you take the field. When I felt, pressure, or I felt the significance of the moment, I became somewhat reclusive and just wanted to be quiet and focus and concentrate. Other guys, they're very, outgoing, extroverted, they play their music, or, they try to release some of that tension, but everybody goes about it a little bit differently. But it doesn't make it any more important or any less important to any of those guys.
Absolutely. And, we talk so much about the importance of the quarterback play in the league these days. And in the most important games, obviously, that becomes pretty important too. What is the most important thing for a quarterback to do to win playoff games?
Well, the best advice that I got really going into my first playoff start was from Roger Staubach. And he just said, be as prepared as possible mentally, and then just let your physical abilities take over. And that sounds pretty simple, but I always felt that if you were as prepared mentally and knowing what to expect and really feeling good that you had a great idea of the game plan, what you were trying to accomplish as an offense, or what the opponent was trying to do against you, that you went in much more relaxed and you were a lot freer then in how you played. And so that was kind of my approach. And then the other part of it, Jimmy Johnson always said, hey, the team that wins, it's not always about who makes the most big plays, it's who makes the fewest bad plays. And I think there's really a lot of truth in that. And sometimes as quarterbacks or as players, you go out and you try to make the spectacular play when all you really need to do is just not make the bad play. And, a lot of teams, most teams beat themselves as opposed to the other team beating them. And, so I just tried to realize the importance of being smart with the ball, understanding the situation, knowing how our defense was playing. To me, there's so much that goes into how a quarterback plays on any given play, and whether you try to force a ball in or whether you play a little bit more conservatively. And I just tried to stay on top of those situations and be smart.
Gotcha. And finally, you talk about all that, you had to be successful. Who do you feel right now is the most complete or the best team in each of our two conferences as we head towards the NFL playoffs here?
Well, I think in the AFC, the team that has really caught my attention is Denver, and they just seem to get better and better. And Peyton Manning's playing great, and they're going to be a tough team to beat. I also like New England. I mean, just because of their pedigree and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and they tough loss obviously when they lost to the 49ers. I put a little bit different spin on what we think of them, but they're a team and a coach and a quarterback that I just think is hard to pick against. So those would be the two teams that I really like right now out of the AFC. In the NFC, I'd have to go with the San Francisco 49ers. They're playing with confidence. They're a very talented team. They've proven it a year ago. They've proven it again this year. I like the 49ers in being able to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
All right, well, we'll see how it all plays out and look forward to talking with you about it along the way. Thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, Tom. Thank you, buddy.